What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We decided to do things a little different today. We took some topics from our listeners, and we got a few good ones. Danny, if you could pull one up, and let's see what they had to say.
All right, so this one's from Scott Harder, and he asked a really interesting question. He said, how far back does your memory go? For some people, it's 2 or 3. Some people don't have any memories before 10. So that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to get into how far back we can take our memories and why we falsely imprint memories, and also why we erase certain memories.
Yeah, when I saw him post that one would trip me out a little bit. I didn't know how far back I actually went. I mean, I think my most recent memory was, or not most recent, the one that I can remember. It was when I was 3. No, not 3, 10. 10, sorry. 3, no.
That's a huge difference.
Three
That's a big gap.
3 was when someone told me about a memory. And then that's a little different. When somebody tells you something, you start thinking you remember it, but I don't know if that's the same. But when mine was when I was 10. I got my first bike, so it was like a big moment for me. And then
we talked about that too.
Yeah, and then I crashed my bike into my grandpa's car. So yeah, it was a happy and sad moment. But yeah, what about you guys?
Just off of when I read that comment, I can remember a few things before I was 6, and then I have a few memories for when I was 8 during baseball. And for me, remembering something, you should be able to tell a story about it, because then you're actually pulling that from your memory, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, I remember doing this, and that's about that.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. Like, you should actually be able to have cognizant memories from it, something that you can actually describe. Okay, I remember actually stepping on third base and throwing to second base, which I remember in like my 8-year-old Little League All-Star game. I remember distinctly turning a double play. But my earliest memory, I have a really weird one. It's hazy, but I do remember being in my crib and I dropped my Mickey Mouse stuffed animal, and I remember wanting it, and then the next moment feeling extreme pain. And that's the whole memory. That's all I have. And my mom said the last time I was in a crib was like somewhere between 1 and 2. So I have a really brief memory of falling out of my crib, and I distinctly remember it from my own like eyesight. So maybe the pain or the trauma like imprinted that on me. I just remember I got the wind knocked out of me, but I remember feeling like extreme pain, and that's it. That's the memory.
I wonder if the reason you remember certain things are just because of the extreme emotion that you get depending on like how you're affected. If you're extremely happy, extremely sad, but those seem to be like the most that stick to you. And they're never the little things like, oh yeah, I remember that one time I went grocery shopping with my dad. Like you don't necessarily remember that. But you remember if you went grocery shopping and you spilled a whole jar of pickles all over the place, that's something you're going to remember for the rest of your life.
I don't know. I would kind of argue that, because my one memory before, I'd say I was probably 4 or 5, and I was at my grandpa's house. Now, probably the reason why I remember is because my grandpa passed away when I was 6. But I remember leaving my grandpa's house with my dad, my parents, and my aunt and uncle. I remember running around telling my uncle to chase me because I thought I was the fastest kid alive, but he caught me instantly, and I remember losing my shit. So, I mean,
I've been exposed.
That's not. I wouldn't say it's a huge imprint, like dropping the milk down the grocery aisle and having a group of people look at you. Your dad lose his mind on you.
Yeah, I think also too with our generation, which is I think one of the first generations where we actually had the use of pretty inexpensive video cameras. We're actually starting to take a lot of the home video movie scenes and imprint those into our memory and think those are actually our memories. Because I was watching some home videos not that long ago when I was visiting my parents in Idaho, and I started realizing some of my memories on these things were actually from other people's perspectives, and I was just telling myself that was my memory. But for me, like, most of my memories were like accidents that happened, or like kind of things that stuck out. Like, I distinctly remember going over the handlebars of my bike when I was 6 years old when we lived in Ceres. Like, I distinctly remember the helmet I was wearing. I remember that feeling of, oh shit, I'm going to die, going over the handlebars, and the huge dent in my helmet. Like, that helmet saved my life. I would have brain damage for sure.
Those are the most fun ones to remember, I think. I think all guys have that. It's all the ones where you hurt yourself and you're like, oh man, I remember that day clearly. Trevor and I had a couple of fun times when we were little. I don't want to get into detail with them too much, but there was a few incidences where you remember them clearly because of the pain you were in.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a weird thing too, is there's some way our body's connected to our memory center in our brain when it comes to stimuli, like pain or emotional distress. Like you seem to remember those things. Like I can remember distinctly my dad's face, like when he got the call that his dad had a stroke. I distinctly remember being in the parking lot at our church on a Sunday and him saying, okay, I've got 20 missed calls. And like, I remember seeing that and feeling like I haven't had like a close family member pass away, and like knowing that was going to happen, like that burned that into my memory. It seared it in. So I think it's really interesting how that is tied together, how physical responses can be tied into our memory centers.
Yeah, whether it be strongly positive or strongly negative or pain. I mean, the brain is such a powerful thing. I mean, what the brain is capable of, it's kind of interesting how it all kind of ties together with our memories.
That brings up an interesting question. When it comes to memory, do you think that some people can remember further back than others, or just some people more lazy about it? Like, think of telephone numbers. Some people can remember everybody's telephone number just off the top of their head. But then there's some people like me that I can barely remember my own phone number. Like you said, the brain's so powerful, but everybody's got a brain. Some people just use more of it and less of it. And then in the same question, if you can use your brain a lot stronger, do you think that there's some people, like people that say that they're psychic and stuff like that? Is that just them having a stronger ability with their brain and maybe they're just using it to its full potential? Or do you think that's just crazy talk?
I feel that's opening another door to another topic. But I mean, it's pretty interesting to think about just because how they say like we only use 15% of our brains. Mm-hmm. Like there's been quote unquote studies on that, which I could definitely get that because I mean, the brain is so powerful. I mean, just moving my hands right now is just, I'm not thinking about it, but I'm still capable of doing it just by using my brain. So it would make you question why you don't remember your whole life behind you. Is it the fact that it's kind of like wasted? Like, why would your brain remember something so insignificant that's just clearing up room for you to continue remembering things that are happening right now?
Yeah, it's weird. I think of the brain, like kind of like how you were saying, like, are we not using it to its full potential? Of course we aren't using it to its full potential. It's more powerful than all the hard drives in the world combined. You know, it's the ultimate tool for memories. It's the ultimate tool for storing information and data. There are some people that can access that better than others, you know, and maybe that is, like you were saying, Noel, about like why psychics may seem to have this otherworldly power. You know what? Maybe they're hitting parts of their brain that we aren't, you know, like people that do psychedelic drugs and all that kind of thing. They're hitting parts of their brain and they're pulling out memories that they might not have remembered. They're there. Our memories are all still there. It's the part of us that can we access them or not? It's really interesting to think about that, like to really, really break that down.
I think it's funny when you do a little research about people and their like memories and like stuff that they can, there's people that say that they can go back to like they remember coming out of the womb and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know, that's a stretch. But who's to say that they're wrong? I mean, we don't know. We're not them.
Yeah,
but
even though we are saying that they're wrong, but
strongly suggest.
But you know, like you said though, it could be like right? we don't know. I'm not you. And I'm not you. Exactly. And I'm not that person that says they can remember coming out of the womb. Maybe a part of their brain is more developed than ours is. I mean, it makes sense. Our athletic talent is all different. Why should our brain and our memory base be any different?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what I was trying to get at is I was talking to my friend Kendra yesterday, and we were sitting there talking about how same thing, like with talent, like what is the reason why somebody just happens to have more talent than somebody else? I mean, like you and me, Danny, we both like sports. We both like to play basketball, this and that, but you're just naturally better at certain things than I am. So why couldn't you use that towards your brain? Why wouldn't you put that towards your brain and say, okay, well, I might not be psychic. I may be like, oh, I see deja vu every once in a while, or like, oh, I thought I knew that was going to happen, but how far is it to say that, oh, that other person over there is beyond that and can actually see things happen before they happen? Like, is that too much of a stretch?
To someone who isn't experiencing that, it
looks like Trevor wants to call bullshit so hard right now.
It is like it's hard to think outside of your frame of perspective. You know, your frame, like, oh, I can't remember, you know, the color of the house two down from yours, but someone else just might automatically imprint that data into their memory base and just go, okay, well, yeah, I remember that. Those people that have photographic memories that can read a book and remember all the information inside of it, there are people that do that. So who's to say that it doesn't go a little farther in another certain aspect of memory?
Photographic memory, that one's a crazy one too. God, see, it's so hard for me to talk about this because I feel like my memory is just crap. I'm the type of guy that just, you tell me one thing and I'll put it off to the side and I won't remember it for like 2 days until somebody brings it up to me. So the fact that I even have memories from when I was a kid is just, they were all just big emotional memories. Like those are the reasons why I remember them, because it's how I felt that at that time. They weren't just like something I was like, oh, I want to remember this for the rest of my life. It was just, I fell off my bike and I remember falling off my bike, but I don't remember, like you said, like in detail. I don't know what helmet I was wearing or anything like that. It just, my brain's not that sophisticated, I guess.
Maybe our memories have to do with the fact that we're getting older, so maybe our brain is kind of not being able to access its full potential like it used to when we were younger. Like when people get older, they take a little bit longer to get out of bed in the morning because their bones are hurting or their muscles are aching. Because the brain is a muscle that we use constantly, even when we're asleep. Maybe the fact that we can't remember things is just because of just the pure wear and tear that it's taking.
Yeah, and I think a lot of kind of echoing that, but also a different angle too, is I think we're on autopilot a lot. How often do you remember, how many times do you come home from work when you're tired and you're driving? And exactly, like how you come home and you don't even remember your drive. You can't pick out one detail. It's just a blur. It's erased from your memory. When you do something repetitively over and over again, waking up, brushing your teeth, going to work, coming home from work, going to the grocery store, I guarantee you can't remember what you bought on your last 10 grocery store trips. You might have an idea because you buy it a lot, but you're not going to remember details. You're not going to remember costs. You're not going to remember how many cars passed you on the freeway on the way home. Or if you're speeding, then how many cars you passed. But, that part of your brain, it shuts on and off. You go on autopilot. You have this weird thing where your brain functions, your body functions according to what the brain's telling it, but you don't have a memory on it. So we're totally not scientific, but I'm sure there's been studies done where they've compared that kind of autopilot brain and how that affects memory.
Maybe it has to just do with the sheer fact that we're in such a repetitive state with what we do. Like every Monday through Friday, I drive to work around the same exact time. I drive home from work basically the same exact time. 90% of those drives, I always get there and was like, oh crap, like how did I get here?
Oh, that's safe. That's so safe.
We could all say it. I mean, but our lives are so repetitive. Like like I said, Monday through Friday, my life is pretty much the same. So maybe, like you said, the autopilot factor could play a huge part in that.
So is this autopilot factor that we have, is this a weakness? Like, would we consider that a weakness, or is it saving our memory from having to be used up? And,
you don't want to run out of space in your memory?
Because think about this. So I started...
Gotta upgrade that shit, man.
Yeah, exactly. I started a new job recently, and I'm telling you, working a full week at all new stuff, your brain is just operating on this level of just... It's so hard by the end of the day. Like, you're just fried.
That's a good point. Maybe that's why you don't remember certain things and why you only remember, like, from your childhood, the big stuff that happens, because there's no point in remembering the day you woke up, had your cereal, and then just went to school. Like, that was every day, and there's no point in remembering that because they might fill up your hard drive.
Yeah, so we do this with video games, right? Like, you don't learn to play a video game every single time you play it. If you're playing BioShock, for example, that the left click is going to pick up, is going to open up a box, or it's just something that you could play a different level of that game.
Better yet,
or
the checkpoints you get to.
Yes.
You forget about everything else after that because you saved at that checkpoint, and then you just move on. So you don't need to remember all the other stuff.
You don't learn the motions of it over and over again. You might fine tune your hitting in baseball, but you're not going to relearn how to swing a bat. So it's already there, so you already have that knowledge stored. Maybe that's how it is when you drive home.
Do you think that it's possible to train the mind then, or train the memory? So, like, if you were to be like, man, I just have a really bad memory and I want to figure out how to get better at it, you think there's a way to sit there and just train like you said, it's a muscle, so could you train yourself to have a better memory?
Well, I know I've seen where they say that you should be playing those like brain games on your phones or like Sudokus and stuff like that for when you get older, just to keep the brain functioning, so it keeps it to where you're not going to get like dementia or something like that. So I would definitely say that you can train it, but I don't know if you could train it to remember things better. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, I think you probably could improve it. Like you're going to get better than just ground level of where you're at now, because it's going to degenerate as well. You know, if you don't do anything to enhance your memory skills, it's not going to get better. If you try, at least you're going to have the placebo effect of, oh yeah, my memory's getting better. I can remember that. I mean, just it's just like exercise. You know, you're going to work different muscle groups out when you exercise. You're going to get different results. Exercise is going to help your memory. Just getting the blood flowing. Reading is really good for you. Having discussions like this is going to be good for you. It's going to enhance things. You're going to be able to pull this information out of different corners.
What do you guys think about going? Okay, so we know how things were in the past. Everybody did like home videos and stuff like that, and that was mostly how people remembered their past. But now with social media and everything, and how everything is so instant, and people have literally photos of everything they did in the last 24 hours, do you think that's going to help people's memory, or people are going to be relying on that and just have less of those memories and those kind of same impactful moments?
No, there's no way, because their memories are with photos and videos. So
wasn't that what it was before? We just only had one video out of the 6 months instead of 20 videos in the last 24 hours.
But the fact that you never saw those videos so often, like, it's like kind of remembrance when it's posted. Like, for instance, I mean, most of our generation posts things online,
right?
So they're posting basically their memories online. Odds of them remembering by actually explaining what happened in this situation, I feel like, is less than it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago, just because everything's happening, everything's new, everything's going, and they're constantly using it, constantly taking photos, constantly taking videos, that they're kind of losing that sense of remembering. They're not living in the moment. There's no way that they can express their memories because they're not in the moment.
See, I think you hit the head on the nail right there, saying that you weren't living it. Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, we did this last week when we were all looking at pictures from when we all first met and we were all first hanging out, like when we were in our early 20s, and we were looking at all those pictures, and that pulled up memories. That triggered a lot of memories. So there is a positive aspect to social media and all that. But what I think it does is, like you were saying, Trevor, is it lessens the actual moment it's happening in. And like Jackie, my girlfriend, and I, we'll go hiking, we'll go do all this stuff together. And when you start getting away from actually experiencing it and you start taking a lot of pictures, like that was a huge problem for me. I used to take way too many pictures and kind of like frame it up the right way and do all these different things. But when she makes me hike, it's like we get into just actually enjoying the experience, like really, really enjoying the experience. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, you can see where, for hiking, I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, you're doing an experience that not a lot of people do. And by taking photos, you're almost taking a step back mentally and trying to find that perfect photo. And you're kind of losing the experience of walking up a trail or seeing, the perfect, tree structure, the way the sun's hitting it and everything is just, but you're not looking at that just because you're looking at it as a photographer, in a sense, trying to capture that moment as far as experiencing the moment.
Yeah, I agree. And also there is a positive flip side to this too, though. The people that make that sacrifice of sacrificing their memories for the moment, they're going to inspire other people to go out and do that stuff based off of pictures. Like when I went on my trip, there were a lot of pictures that I saw that inspired me to go to those places. So there are positives to social media, but I don't think the positives are there for the memory portion of it.
One problem that I've been noticing, at least with our generation, is the storytelling factor. Both of my uncles are great storytellers. They're able to tell stories of when they were kids, or memories when, me and my cousins were kids, about like some of the stupid shit that we would do. But they were able to tell it in such a way that it brought the images back to you. It brought those memories back. You're like, oh yeah, I do remember this. How we were talking about storytelling, about bringing back memories. But I feel like with this social media and taking pictures and kind of taking a step back and not being able to remember things, I feel like we're losing that storytelling aspect as well, because we're not living in that moment.
Well, yeah, people back then didn't have a medium like we do. Like we were talking about the home video aspect, like that medium did not exist really. I mean, it did on a certain level, but it was a huge process to set up a video camera in the 60s and the 70s. I've seen some of my mom's old family videos and stuff, and there weren't that many. I mean, there was a huge gap. It was big holidays. Now, I mean, people film everything. People will take a video of themselves eating cereal in the morning, and I think like what you said, how it's storytelling is disappearing. The actual art of being able to hold a conversation and being able to describe something, to where if I'm telling a story about my youth, I can almost place you there at the scene. You can imagine the scene. And I think that's going away a little bit. We're shortcutting that portion because it's just easier to take a picture and just go look it up online. Like, I took that picture, go take a look at it. Rather than telling the whole experience and story behind it. We're like short-circuiting the memory aspect of things.
I mean, I remember Noel, how I think he might have said in a previous podcast where he says, like, oh, if you want to get to know me, just take a look at my Instagram. And that's kind of where we're losing that storytelling. We're just talking about ourselves. Like, hey, just look at my Facebook, you'll understand what I like. Or go look at my Insta. Like, yeah, you'll see my life. Like, that's who I am. It's like, but that's not really you. That's what you portray of yourself. I don't know. I feel like we're getting away from memories a little bit on this.
No, I think it all plays into it. I mean, just the fact that, kind of like Danny was saying, when you're going to tell a story or something that happened to you in the past, instead of getting into detail about it, you're like, oh, let's just get on my Facebook. I took a video and you can live the moment with me, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. You guys might disagree with me here, but I think it almost makes it to where you can relive that moment more often than not. Because, I mean, when I was a kid, my parents only had certain videos and they were only during the holidays, but they weren't videos of when we were just hanging out, having dinner or whatever. But now we're taking videos and pictures of everything we're doing from that day. Like, I have pictures on my Instagram from just 2 weeks ago's family dinner, which I may have forgot about if I never had Instagram or anything like that. So I think it does have its good, it does have its bad, because like you said, it does kind of make us a little lazier, but I think the positive outweighs the negative dramatically.
See, I'm on the opposite side of this. We're going to disagree for the first time on a podcast.
Good.
I think there are some positives to it. Like I said, there's some positives to where, like we did last week, where we pulled up the pictures and we looked at them. Like, it was great because that brings up the memories again. But I think what we're doing is we're selling our own personal memories short. And then it's kind of like a decision that people have to make on themselves.
But wouldn't you already be selling yourself short if those pictures weren't there? You wouldn't even be thinking about it. You would have almost forgot about them because you looked at a couple pictures and said, oh my God, I don't even remember that. And if those weren't even there, then you would have just forgot about it. There's no selling yourself short because you don't even remember it to begin with.
Yes,
Am I
but
wrong?
Is it really your memory, or are you looking at someone else's memory? And I think that's where like my side of the argument would come from is I want that to be my memory. And if I can't remember it, oh well. Like, it's good to think about those times, but seeing those pictures made me think about my memories of those parties, my memories of those experiences. So
instead of the perspective
of someone
else.
else's memory. And then you start getting into that whole imprinting memory thing where certain people, I'll tell a story and think it was me that did that at 6 or 7 years old, when really my brother will go, wait, no, that was me. I did that and you were standing over there. But I've just thought of it that way and my brain has told me.
Right, but if you had Facebook and the video was on there, you could just go and look at it and you wouldn't even have to argue about it.
But, well, let's look at it this way. Let's say you have the video, so clearly you can see it happening. Do you lose that memory, though? Because it's captured. And
how do you lose it? It's in
You're
front of your
overwriting
face.
it. You're overwriting your own memory. So that's the question.
You're correcting your own memory. You're not overwriting it.
But for not even just this if you're right or wrong thing, are you losing like the integrity of your memory structure, or are you okay? Some people might be okay with your idea of it. That's why I think we're disagreeing on this, because I think some people would be happy with going off of seeing pictures and videos of it. But some people might have that like, oh, I really wish I could remember that and the experiences I felt in that moment. So it's kind of like, what are you happy with? Some people are going to be happy with wanting their own authentic, original memory, and other people are going to be okay with looking at memories from pictures or photographs.
Well, that makes.
Videos.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're coming from, because yeah, obviously there's probably people that grew up thinking one way and believing something, and then to find out 20 years later that everything they remembered from a child is completely wrong. Then yeah, I guess it could kind of break someone technically, because like you said, they want to believe and remember what they remember. They don't want to be told otherwise.
And you see that kind of false imprintation of memories all the time. Like, you'll see it. I think the biggest example would be like a courtroom. You have an eyewitness, person. Oh, I saw that person rob the store. Well, did you really? Ooh. It all happened in a heartbeat. Your adrenaline was going. Did you really recognize that guy's face? Could you, take two different people that are really, really close in appearance and say for 100% certainty that it was that person that robbed the store? I mean, I think that's a proven fact that happens all the time.
Or if you look at it this way, this may be a little too deeper, kind of a little to the edge. But when you're growing up and you have that fun uncle and you remember him as the best uncle in the world, he was always a great time. And then as you get older, you start seeing family videos and he always had like 4, 6, 8, 22 beers down the road. And you're like, oh my God, my uncle was a drunk. Like,
Time to start drinking because he had fun.
yeah, like that. But that's that memory of you growing up, always remembering, oh, he was just the fun uncle. He was such a great guy. And then finding out later on because you start looking at stuff and hearing it differently from somebody else's perspective, you're like, oh shit, maybe he wasn't.
And that imprints over your memories.
Yes, you're overwriting. Oh man, you win.
And that kind of ruins it.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was the fun uncle for you this whole time, I mean, for 20 years, you're like, oh, my uncle, he's so awesome. I mean, we have this memory of him. We have this memory that then your other cousin's like, no, that dude was drunk all the time. He made up all those stories.
Right.
You're like, what?
Right now, they're all three of us. If our uncles are listening to this, they're going, was that me? Are they fucking talking about
Yeah, let's
me
be
right
clear.
now?
None of us have a drunk uncle.
No,
and if we do, you're still fun. Don't worry.
Keep it up.
You taught us well. No, I'm just joking.
Trevor, I mean, what about you with your kids? I mean, do you try to document certain things, or do you just want them to remember what they remember? How do you guys do it in your household?
Well, I'm pretty terrible at taking photos or videos. So,
Nice.
I like to keep that to myself. I'm pretty selfish when it comes to my memories, if I could say that, because I don't know. I feel like I mentioned earlier, I feel like you kind of you take yourself out of the moment when you're busy taking a photo. Like, yeah, I've taken photos of my boy, well, Aaron, when he's playing like baseball or something. But when I'm coaching, I can't really take any photos, so I kind of take a step back as far as that. But no, I like living in the moment. I like experiencing and keeping everything to myself. I love being able to have that for myself. It just reminds me to keep myself, me, and not telling everybody like, oh, this is what we did. It's like, no, that's my memory. That's my moment.
Yeah, and I have terrible short-term memory. I can't even remember things like, where I left my keys or my wallet and all that kind of stuff. But for little weird things, like you guys always say, I'm the person with the random knowledge. I'll be like, oh yeah, back in 1847, that happened with that. I have weird random knowledge, but
you can't remember about coming out of the womb? What's wrong with you?
No, I don't know. I can't remember that. Thank goodness, though. That would have been traumatic. I've seen Family Guy and Stewie and all that. And
I was a C-section baby, so
you're one of those.
I was ripped away.
See, I think because my views on the whole documenting memories is a little different than your guys's. I think when I do something, let's say with Megan, or we go out of town and stuff like that, if we don't take pictures or something like that, I almost regret it because I feel like, oh man, I might forget about this. Like, I'm not one that remembers things long term. So if we were to go to like Pismo or something like that, there's a chance that a year down the road, I'm going to forget the whole trip and then just have to ask her, hey, like, what did we do? How was it? Not to that extent, but she'll remember a lot more about it than I would. And it almost makes me feel bad. So I use the tools of social media and stuff like that to kind of help me remember everything that kind of happened. But I could see where it goes both ways.
That's really true. I'll do that with Jackie when we go on trips and stuff. It's nice to be able to pull pictures up like, chronologically and go, oh yeah, we did stop there. Oh yeah, I guess we did stop at that little place in Carmel or Morro Bay or something. And oh, we did check out that store. I'm glad I took one picture there. I can see where you're coming from on that. Actually being able to trigger the memories again.
Yeah, because I mean, especially with nowadays of how busy you are, it's hard to recollect the little things that you enjoy doing because you're so busy focusing on what's about to happen next. This was a great topic, I think. It was interesting to sit there and think about, man, really, what was that memory that sticks out from when I was younger? And was it something that I really remember, or was it just something that somebody told me I should remember? That's all for today's episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast on SoundCloud or iTunes to get all updates on future content. And just remember, it's not important who's right or wrong, but it's always important to ask why.